What's up, everybody? So today is actually going to be just probably a fairly quick video. Just wanted to do a quick kind of how to do a custom component using a directive in Angular, just to show you how it's done, keeping it somewhat simple. So a lot of this stuff is not directly relevant to it, just kind of a project I've been playing with other things as well. So I'm not expecting to have this particular source code up, at least not right away. Eventually, it probably will be once I get some of these other projects out of the way and up and running. So just to start off, this is actually um, the Visual Studio kind of out of the box demo project where it has um, just a couple of Angular pages here. It's got home, counter, and the increments, and then the general fetch data, and it starts off as a weather forecast. I've actually changed it to still use the same controller because I'm a little bit lazy, and that's not the most important thing to me. And then all I'm doing is playing with some kind of on the side Dapper stuff that I've been working on. Um, so you'll see that it's not getting a lot of this default data anymore, and actually I don't need some of these tabs, so let's hide some of it for now. Um, okay, so let's see, going back, we have just a basic table right now where we have our name, state abbreviation, population, and some zip codes. Um, so let's say that we had the idea that this is, well, let's say we were either going to do this more of the correct way, or we just knew that we were going to use this more often. What we would want to do is come up with a uh, custom component that we could reuse a lot easier. Um, so first thing I'm going to do is go over here to app, and you can actually use the ng generate commands to do this as well. But I'm not going to, just so that we can go a little bit slower and see exactly how it's done and what it's doing. I don't currently have a shared folder, so here in my app, I'm going to add a folder for shared. And then in there, I'm going to add a folder for city data. Okay. And then in there, I do need to add, I'm going to go ahead and add all three files for it. You can, in theory, get away with using less, um, but I'm a huge fan of just creating all three files. That way, you don't have to do it again, or you don't have to worry about it. And then it's just there, and you can continually refresh and fix one file at a time instead of trying to make one code file significantly longer, realizing you've completely overdone it, and then moving things out. It's just, in my opinion, a lot cleaner this way. So what we're going to need is exactly three things. We're going to need a let's see, we're calling it city data. So city data.css. And actually, you know what? Let's keep it a little bit more consistent too. This is going to be component.css. And then since I know I'm going to use it citydata.component for everything, I'm going to go ahead and create all three of them with that copy and pasted. So we have our CSS, whoops. And then next I'm going to add my HTML page. And then the last one is going to be our TypeScript file. Okay, so that's kind of the first big step to creating one of these is getting all of that out of the way. Um, let's see, I'm going to actually start here in the component TypeScript, and I'm going to declare our components which you should have it auto import component for you. And you can do this in code as well. I personally just still like the layout of Visual Studio quite a bit better. And I'm going to call it city data. And then we're going to have a template URL, which is going to be citycomponent.html. And then in theory, oh, that's complaining for something that I don't currently care about. And then style URLs is an array. So we only have one style sheet. So we just finish it like that. And then we want our injectable, and it exports a class, and we're going to call it city data component, just like that. And a lot of the times I'll go ahead and implement on init and control value accessor. So just for right now, I'm going to go ahead and skip those. I don't think that we're going to need them for this right now, and that's just something we can get into later. Things that I am going to expect to need though, so if we go back to our fetch data component, we've got cities here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put on input. And this is basically where you set up the binding from a parent to the child. So by having this here, and we'll call it cities, it's going to be an array of cities just like that. Let's go see. I'm guessing that despite my best attempts, yep, okay. See, and this is just one of the things that happens when you're being lazy. So instead of moving this into a TypeScript file, I'm just going to declare it twice. Yeah, definitely not a good practice, but it's going to get us through. So we're going to do that. And then let's see, for our next thing, let's go back to our fetch data HTML, and everything that is in here is going to be what we use. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to put it into our citydata.html. We don't need any of this. Okay, so here we go. We now have everything that should show up when we render our component. Back on the fetch data though, we need to put this to what we declared there, and then cities is going to be cities, just like that. Another thing that we probably could and probably should go ahead and just do is if we go to our app module on our, let's see, on our declarations, let's go ahead and add our city, our city data component. And then here, this should all be good. All right, so let's just step through it mentally here real quick. So when we load up the page, what we're going to do is we're going to use just use an HTTP request to get an array of cities from my my actual .NET backend. And then we're going to bind that to this property here. Then in the view, we have a city data component that binds cities to cities in that child component. So then if we go and look at this component, we have input cities, which is then marked up from this, and we have our ngIf here. So in theory, that's it. We should be done and ready to check it out and verify that it works the way we want it to. Uh, although it looks like I'm getting TypeScript errors, so I probably should have double checked that one. We'll go back to that in a second. Nope, it's complaining about files that aren't mine. Okay, so it started up at least, and let's go look at fetch data. And there we go. Everything worked exactly like we wanted it to first try. The thing that we will notice though is that on the original implementation, I was having just a little bit of fun with changing the way that the um, boxes here are rendered. So I'm going to actually go ahead and update that as well. So we're going to go back to here, and we're going to go to our fetchdata.css, and here are those classes that I had created. We won't need those anymore, not in the fetch data component at least, but we do want them in the city data component. I don't have any custom body CSS, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Dapper will auto refresh for us, and there we go. We are done. That's it for today. If anybody has anything that they would like to see covered, Angular slash .NET slash Dapper is where I've been spending a lot of my time here recently. I've also been looking at picking up a little bit of React. In the past, we've done PowerShell and Python as well. So if there's something you'd like to see, a problem you'd like solved, just drop it in the comments.